And welcome back, ASCII here with another guide for Banjo Kazooie. In this walkthrough, we'll be collecting all of the Jinjos in Gobi's Valley. These are some pretty well hidden ones, minus maybe that one right there. Not really sure why that one is right next to the entrance of the stage. I guess it is kind of behind you though, so I suppose some people might miss it. The rest of them, however, on this stage are pretty complicated to pick up. Almost every single one requires, a couple of steps, whether it's opening doors or getting into the pyramids or flooding moats or stuff like that. So let's take a look on how to collect all of them. First up, after that yellow one anyway, the easy one, we'll be climbing up here on top of the Sphinx, crossing over the top of his head, and clearing out his nose with blue eggs to open up the door. And why not, we'll show off that cute little trick again where you can hit both sides of his nose just from one side. You don't have to cross over. Caught a glimpse of that in the music note guide. Really nice and easy. Anyone can do that. And with that open, we'll head on inside here and start going up these carpets. This one's kind of tricky right here. Kind of the same thing with the yellow one. It's just kind of out of your normal line of sight as you raise up to this second level here. If you just do a U-turn, there it is right there. If you're listening well, you might actually hear them whistling and stuff. Of course, you can hear the Jinjos making that noise. So you may actually be able to hear it behind you if you're listening carefully. If not, however, you could easily pass that one up. Anyway, back outside now. We'll be heading towards this pyramid over here. I believe this is the one that has that memory game in it with the tiles. We won't be doing that in this video, but if we kind of wrap around the backside here, right next to where that switch is for the extra honeycomb piece, tucked in right here. Here he is. And I suppose that one's not very complicated either. Just kind of hidden out of sight. If you're moving too quickly, you might miss him. And with that, we will move over here to... This is the one where you have to flip the switch and then race up to the top using the running shoes. This technically is optional. You don't have to do this part. I think it's the easier way to do this. We're going to be jumping down into the moat, or the big canal around the pyramid with the maze inside. There's actually going to be a Jinjo down in there. Getting out of that safely is kind of a pain. There are flight pads down there that you can use to fly up. If you wanted to do it without flooding the moat, you can definitely do that. But I think just kind of coming up here, grabbing this puzzle piece and letting the water flow down into it and just swimming and grabbing the Jinjo down there is a lot easier. So you do you, whichever way you'd rather do it. But in our video, we'll just borrow this jiggy from these amphibious mummies here. Thank you, gentlemen, as I tip my hat, and we'll head back outside. So at this point, you could just plop into the water anywhere. I do, however, know exactly where the Jinjo is. He's under the bridge that leads up to the maze pyramid. So let's see if we can get a peek of him here. There he is. And we'll swim on down. And this way we don't have to deal with boiling sand chipping away at her health. And finally, the last Jinjo we will be getting is inside the maze, sort of in the maze. It's actually in the exit area of the maze. So not the maze itself, but we will have to run through it in order to get to that exit area. That, of course, is done by shooting eggs into the three guys that are hanging outside of the walls here, these little Sphinx guys. Once you do that, you'll be able to enter the pyramid and try not to die in there. And on that note, if you stress about this maze, if it's something that makes you nervous, and it's kind of understandable. If you screw up in it, if you take too long, you're going to lose a life and you'll have to start over. Whether that's collecting music notes or, in this case, Jinjos. If you're halfway done and then you try to attempt the maze and then you die, you're gonna have to start over, which is really kind of irritating. I know that pain. If it does give you trouble, I recommend trying do this part first. Just run through the maze, get this Jinjo first, and then take care of the rest of them. That way, in my case here, it's my last one. It would suck to collect all 4 Jinjos, go for the 5th one, and then, die on the 5th one and have to start over. So you may as well make it your first one. That way, if it doesn't work out, then you don't really lose a whole lot of progress. Just a few minutes of your time. Anyway, though, pyramid's up. We're going to climb up the stairs, and we'll head inside. Now, not to make the entire video on this maze, but if you are unfamiliar as far as pickups go, there's not really a whole lot going on inside this maze. Like I mentioned earlier briefly, the Jinjo that we're looking for is not inside the maze. There are no jiggies or extra honeycomb pieces. I don't even think there's mumbo tokens in here. I think the one and only thing is that right there. I don't know if you saw it, but there's a witch switch right there as I ran into that dead end because I have no idea where I'm going. But point being, we just have to find the exit. We're not trying to like pick up stuff. We're not trying to like, multitask as we're watching the timer tick down. Anyway, though, here's that exit area I was referring to, and pretty well hidden there. There's a little Jinjo right in that urn. So the funny thing about that one, and kind of the tragic thing about that one, is if you miss it and you step outside that door, you have to go through the maze again. And what's really awful about it is the couple of times that I have forgotten to pick up that Jinjo, I'll hear or even like see his little hands inside that urn as I'm like walking through the door, and like the screen is fading as I'm exiting the building, and I go, oh my god, I forgot that guy, I have to go through that maze again. Again, though, it's not really a big deal. So anyway, that's all 5 Jinjos on Gobi's Valley. That was a lot of fun. I appreciate you hanging out. Next up is going to be Mad Monster Mansion. Stay tuned for that video, and I will see you in the next episode.